my thought is that the scam to break has to be more intelligent. Is it the treasury companies? Is that what's going to break down? Are all of them a sailor? If this does turn, will they hold? Do they have the same conviction? Will they just start, we got to liquidate? We didn't anticipate this. The board members are not approving it. Do they even have it? Remember, the idea was for zombie companies to like reemerge themselves. Then you read some of these strategies and you're like, so what are you doing with it? There's not freedom of consequences in the modern society we live in. If you're a salaried employee, whatever you do online can be used against you by your job. We don't need a crisis for you to lose your job that way. The Kimmel thing, from what I read, he kind of made a comment about like, why isn't Trump commenting on it? I kind of am like wondering too, like, wasn't that your friend? Like, is he going through some Biden stuff, like cognitive like problems? I feel like the Kirk thing had a feeling of 9/11, the feeling of not feeling safe. He just got shot. He has kids. He's a father. He's Christian like me. He got shot. 9/11 brought us together. This is like dividing us more. Are we going to be able to even fix this civilly? What's the next thing to happen? Being in banking, you could have social media, but they like monitored it to a point of ridiculousness. And so it's just a level of me that's always stuck with me of kind of trying to be a little bit more hidden, but whatever.
Okay. Are you still in banking?
No, I'm not. No, I left 22, 23.
So kind of recently though.
Yeah, COVID just really, I mean, really like screwed everything up. Just the whole dynamic of meeting with people. Uh, I was kind of a conspiracy theorist at the time because I thought the whole reason was a cover for like the repo market crisis, and I was kind of like, they had a really weird vibe towards the end of 19 with like, we'd have meetings and they would just keep reassuring us. They'd show us all these photos of like lines at ATMs and be like, just want everyone to know that we have money. If anybody wants to take it out. And I was just remember being like, why do you keep saying that? Like, what's wrong? And I already was like huge, like, oh, the banking system. Yeah, I knew all that stuff prior to that. And then COVID happened and I'm over there going, dude, this just seems so coincidental to just shut everything down. But yeah, that COVID destroyed that industry at that point. You can't really be a Bitcoin. It's hard to be a Bitcoiner, let's say, and then work for basically the enemy, right? Like it just get to a point where it's like they like almost laugh at you there. When
Really?
I bring up Bitcoin, yeah. I have some things I remember saying to people to this day that I'm like, oh, that was a good one. I got them. People mocking it. I was like, I'll at like 11 grand. And I was like, I'll sell you one for the future price of 25K right now. And they were like, oh, whatever. And I always look back at that like, oh, that was a good line. Glad it all worked out for me. Glad to, so.
Yeah, it's always nice being on the right side of it when, you're the crazy one in the group. And then it finally just does what we all think it's going to do. And then you're like, I was right. Okay.
Yeah.
Feels good.
Yeah. I think, I don't know when you got into Bitcoin. I call myself a 17er, kind of got in early 17. I looked it up today because there was like, I feel like there's moments you heard about it and then it's like when you took it seriously. And I remember there was a bowl game and I was like, what was the college bowl game? It was 14. It was the St. Petersburg Bowl and BitPay paid for like a logo. And I remember a Bitcoin symbol was on the field. And I remember being like, wow, that's crazy. And then just had some friends like really press me about an arbitrage trade he discovered. And he was like, hey, we can buy it off this site, sell it here, just go back and forth. And I was like, all right, whatever. And this is like when it was $1,000. But people think like, oh, why didn't you just buy like so much? It's like, okay, so like Coinbase had like, I think they might have had Ethereum on there. So it's just those two. Didn't know anything really about cold storage at the time. They could have just took your money and who are you going to call? No one. So I do believe the adage that it is easier to buy the more expensive it gets, because it's so much more safe now. People have their opinions on Coinbase, but that was kind of the only on-ramp at the time that you kind of felt somewhat comfortable about. But I had no idea about like cycles, I just thought I was right. Like, man, I'm so right. Like, oh my gosh. Like, but I think the maturity of Bitcoin, what's really cool is I was thinking about this morning walking my dog. Like what Jamie Dimon says today means nothing, but we're within like, so was that 8 years ago when it was the same month when he called it a fraud and like a scam and it just got creamed like by 40%. And those types of moves we just don't see that, like newer Bitcoiners are pretty blessed to not have it could just really go to zero. That was always I don't know if you had that joke back. It's going to zero anytime it. So, um,
No, I
but
mean
yes,
it was scary buying. I mean when it goes from 20,000 down to 3,000, I mean, I know other people experienced it from like 1,200 back to 200 or whatever, and it's like, okay, you had to have like balls of steel to hold back then because that thing could have gone to zero. Like there was a good chance it was going to zero.
right.
Every time, every cycle, it's like there's just way less of a chance of it ever happening. Like now it's impossible. Like there's no way. There's just no way. And so it is safe to buy now. And I'm the same as you, bought in 2017, didn't know much about it, buying little bits along the way. And then fully got, delved into it in 2020. 2019, 2020 was like my solidifying, like, holy shit, I know what this thing is, I know what I hold. But yeah, 2017 is when I found it, started buying it. So I guess I classify myself as 2017, but it is what it is. I don't know, people.
No,
Yeah.
2018 was rough, man. I mean, it held that 6K for a minute there in the fall and then just bled to 3K. Like, dang, dude, it might be over. Like, you know what I mean? And that was a rough time. And, but that pain, because there's somebody posted, I saw something that's like the first thing Bitcoin does is humble you. You buy it and then it just slams down. But that's more of like a punch in the face. This is like you you caught some like deathly illness to a bear market's brutal, and if you survive one, it makes the bull market so much more fun. This bull market's kind of boring, to be honest. Like, since someone on X post today was like, man, we're really only up 7% from December. I'm like, man, that's crazy. Like, we just really haven't really done anything. Like, we're this 400K talk. I don't really like that. I don't like these. They did that in 21 and 22, if you remember. They were saying these ridiculous targets, and it just never came. And I don't think that's good for new people, because then they kind of feel like they were kind of bamboozled or whatever. But yeah, 2018 was rough. I remember in 19 when it ran too. I was pretty serious in 17. I was that psycho Bitcoiner in 17 telling everyone to buy it, you know. And I don't know if I want to use psycho as a term, but I was just such a I work at banking. Listen to me, you know, and like, but you're almost too crazy for people to buy in. But 19 was a crazy year when it ran to like 14. Um, and I look back now and I remember I always joke like there was that 1% you that it's never going to go over 20K. You know, you're just kind of like, is it ever going to get there again? Was that the last chance I had? And then I remember when it after it was like Biden got elected and it just started ripping. I was like, wow, this is working out. I didn't think Bitcoin was going to do this. And then I remember being in the parking lot, it hit 20K and being like, dang, it did it. And then like within 3 weeks we were at 30. And that was a crazy run. The both 17 is kind of nostalgic. I think like the chart is so beautiful. Like if you were ever to study like charting, 17's chart is just incredible.
Yeah. That was so much fun. Like I remembered it bottoming at like the 3,500 for the COVID drop.
Oh, dude, that was so terrifying.
When that hit, and I've said this on the pod before, but I'll say it again. So when it was at 3,500, my wife and I told her we just got back from Italy, and I was like, so we didn't have much money in the savings account at the time, and I was like, if it hits 3,000, I'm buying a full coin.
Nice.
3,500 was the bottom. So I missed the buy, and so I was like, oh shit. So I just started buying from then, and just basically have bought every month. I mean, every 2 weeks, pretty much, since then. So it's like, but that watching it go from that and then surpassing the 20K mark was like monumental, and then from
100%.
20K to up to like the 60, 69K, it felt like it happened so fast. Every time I turned on the TV, like CNBC or something, it was like a new ticker of Bitcoin that was like 30K, 40K, 50K. It was just like, it felt like it kept going. And I was like, this is wild. Like it was so exciting. And I haven't felt that euphoria yet this cycle, like at all. Uh,
Zero.
I was
Yeah.
I was pumped when it hit 100K. I'm not gonna lie. Like I stayed up till I think it was like midnight or 1 a.m. or whatever time it was. And I stayed up and I was like, yeah. But it was like, I was expecting that earlier or something. I don't know what I was waiting for, but I agree with you. The whole 400K, 500K, it's false hope. It's a lot of false hope for newcomers, and they come in and they're like, I'm going to, 5x my money. And it's like, bro, that might not be for a cycle or two. Like,
Right. I think
um,
you go away from like wealth generation to wealth preservation at this point. I think I agree with the 100K, but I kind of feel like 10K was the real, like, man, when it hit 10, I still have text message screenshots with friends where I'm like, it's going to 10K, dude, in like May of 17. 100K was kind of like I 100K, you're getting text messages from people being like, hey, you were right. That's what was happening with me. Like, hey man, you was right, man. How do I buy now? And I'm like, wow, that okay, yeah, here's how you do it, and like, people are like starting to take it seriously. Like 100K was a serious number. I still just think 10K was like, it's crazy just looking back at like, man, I remember like I was just telling someone this. I'm like, man, $100 doesn't buy you anything anymore. But I remember when we were ripping up in 19 and I was buying like 10 million Satoshi for like $500, and I'm like, dude, that's like, 10 G's, you know what I mean? You're spending, it's tons of money now. It's like, man, you don't really think about it until you actually try to put a buy in. You're like, holy smokes. Like, and so that's why I think it should be more sensitive bring or onboarding the new people of more of a different message of like, you're preserving your wealth with this long term. And that's why I think I actually I always liked the gold and Bitcoin chart. I remember I made a comment like 9 months ago and someone busted my chops about it, but now I'm starting to see it come along a lot more. And I do think it's a good gauge. I'm not a real anti-gold guy. I think gold's a decent, I don't hoard it, but I mean, I have somewhere, I call it apocalyptic money. That's what I used to tell people. If
yeah,
if everything breaks down and I need to trade for some sort of firearm ammo or like food, 1/10 of a troy ounce is usually a good gauge what it takes to fill a grocery cart. It was kind of always my thing. And like silver coins, whatever. Like I feel like you'll get those and like you have an uncle that passes away, it might leave you some silver. There's nothing really wrong with that. But nothing really outruns Bitcoin. And actually, if you did try to trade cycles against gold, man, you would really like crush. But it's just a difficult. That's so much. That's the rear view is clearer than the windshield kind of thing. Like, yeah, looking back at the charts, it's really easy. Like somebody saying they can sell the top, like that's not how this works. It's borderline impossible to get that lucky. I mean, I what I learned from the 18 bottom was that that'll happen again, and that happened in when everything kind of fell apart with all the fraud of like what FTX and all the Terra Luna or whatever. There was all
yeah,
the ones, but the
Celsius.
FTX, yeah, Celsius, FTX was the one where so it went to 64, then back to 30, and then everybody was so certain it was going to 100, and it broke down about 69. Well, 30K was kind of that bottom, and I remember thinking like, dang man, like buying under 30 is kind of the buy, but because it shouldn't break 20, because everybody in Bitcoin has like these hardcore beliefs that they end up breaking, like the all-time high before the halving kind of thing. Like all these things work until they don't, and it's fine. You can use it, but like don't treat it like gospel. I remember actually like looking into like I kept getting stuff in the mail, be like, hey, do you want to do an 18-month 0% loan? And be like a check. You could just deposit it. I called them. I'm like, can I just deposit this in my bank account? And they're like, yeah, sure. And it was, and I wasn't even really planning on buying it, but I'm like, dang, 18 months from this FTX collapse. I'm like, that's kind of going into the bull market. And I'm like, I'll just take out extra to pay the minimum payment. And I ended up, it's so the news comes out about FTX, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to break 20K. I'm like, this is such a buy. What was everybody saying? It's going to 11K. That was the version of it's going to 100K. It's not going to 11K. You know what I mean? Kind of like your thing, 3,000, I'll buy it, 3,500. So I was like, anything here. My first buy was 17.5. And it just kept bleeding. And I was like, oh my God, I get all scared. And it's like now looking back, it's like, dude, come on. And I was buying it. I got one. I actually have one I limit ordered at like 14.9. And I was like, let's go. And it filled. I mean, I didn't get like 20 Bitcoin, but the credit amount was like half a Bitcoin for like 8 grand. You
Dude,
know what I'm
people would
saying?
kill for that right
That's
now.
what I'm saying. And at the time, I was scared because that was a trade I did tell any of my friends. I didn't want anybody talking me out of it. Didn't want anybody freaking me out. I didn't tell them till like later on, like, hey, man, this actually worked out. And if cycles still exist, I think there's an opportunity for that. But things change. Do cycles get longer? The thing that doesn't get longer is the halving cycle. Like, that's still a thing. But the way price moves about that, I don't know. I mean, I believe like it is still is until it isn't. I still think I don't know what you think about what are your I mean, do you what are your thoughts on cycles?
So yeah, I still believe that we actually will probably have cycles. I think they will be less volatile. So I do think we will have a downturn in 2026. When that is, no one knows. No idea. I do think we'll probably top out in 2026. I think or late 2025 in Q4. Depends how high up we run. If we get the parabolic to, 200K, 250, something like that, I do think we come down pretty hard. If we don't, this thing could honestly run for a while into 2026. And then we have a lull of like a 2 year where it's like, it drops 30% over 4 months and comes back up and drops. It's like, the crab walk sideways type thing. I
Mhm.
could see that happening too, but I think the traditional bear market I think it's broken. There's too much in the ETFs, in the treasury companies. Uh, so I don't. When I see people trying to say that they're going to time this market and try and be like, yeah, in November, I'm going to sell in the top. I'm like, dude, Wall Street now is watching this thing. If you think that you can outsmart them and you're going to time the top because it's going to drop, like, good luck, dude. Like, you might lose all your Bitcoin. You might not ever get the chance to buy back again. And not financial advice, but I think you're an idiot if you try and do that. I don't know about you. I've worked way too hard, gone through way too many shitty situations where my conviction was tested, where I was like, fuck, dude, I'm down 80% on a lot of my buys. I It hurts. It sucks. And the friends you tell along the way when you're like, I'm buying, and they're like, it's a scam, it sucks, and then it drops that much, you're like, fuck, maybe they're right. It's
That
lonely.
it,
It's
that's what the COVID drop felt like. I remember sitting on my porch talking to my brother, being like, "Dang, dude, were we wrong?" I mean, because dude, it went from like basically 10K to 3K in within like 6 hours. Like, are we wrong? Did we actually make the bad call? And then he bought some. That kind of inspired me. Like, let's okay.
let's
Maybe we should
go.
be maybe we should be buying here. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe we should be looking at this differently. Um, so I feel like the last two collapses of cycles was because something broke, and I don't know what you kind of want to blame 17 on, but I'd say like BitConnect, you know what I mean? That was like a huge breakdown. Like once that broke down in January, that was kind of it. Like it wasn't, I think it was only over 15K for like maybe 10 days. Like we have this, like, I don't know if you have it, but like, I don't know if my memory serves me right, but it feels like it was just chilling at like 17.5. No, it was only there for a hot second. Something broke. And then looking back, the prior breakdown of cycles was the Mount Gox, but rates were zero. Rates were about 1.5 during 17, and so that the last cycle they really were they really were like basically zero. This cycle they're really high. So if something breaks, I feel like the slow walk. Okay, this is just conspiracy tinfoil hat.
No, I love it.
Okay, so my thought is that the scam to break has to be more intelligent, has to be some sort of, and so like I'm always like, is it the treasury companies? Is what's going to break down? And I actually I like I'm irresponsibly long on MicroStrategy. I like MicroStrategy.
Okay.
But I'm like, are all of them a sailor? Will, if this does turn, will they hold? Do they have the same conviction? Will they just start? We got to liquidate. We didn't anticipate this. The board members are not approving it.
Are they
Can it
over
like
leveraged?
do they even have it? Do they even have it? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, if you want to be like total scam, like, are they just, remember, the idea was for zombie companies to like reemerge themselves. And then you kind of read some of these strategies and you're like, so what are you doing with it? And I mean, whatever. I'm just saying, like, you sometimes got to you got to uncover areas you're uncomfortable looking at. Does that make sense? So like it's like, what could really break it down? And I just feel like that's kind of what did it the last few times. And Wall Street makes money both ways. I used to tell people, like, they don't lose in a way where they'll turn the market off. Like the whole GameStop, you just can't trade that now. So if you catch them slipping, they figure out a way to like we're still gonna get paid. It's just gonna you really can't beat them. They're playing both ways. So they made money all the way down too. So I agree that it could go on longer. I'm really interested to see what we do at the end of the year here, because it kind of feels like we could do some crazy 2017 parabolic, and that could be it. We could go to like 145 and everybody's like, oh, this next retracement, we're good. And then, we bleed out. We basically are like searching for the new world in the ocean. When we broke 100K, I was like, we basically just were like, well, this is beyond the map we have in our hands here. We're beyond that. And you can always go back to these people post, oh, it's going to $1 million by this day. It's like, it might, but like, man, it's really crazy, because I don't even quote it at 115. I don't know about you. I always say 15, and that's like 15.5. I don't even say the 100 of it, like when I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
to someone. But no, I do think, I think the treasury company is MicroStrategy. I think every other one is kind of ones where I'm like, concerning. It's kind of like, it's almost like every other one's an altcoin to the Bitcoin. Where like MicroStrategy is like the Bitcoin. It's like that's the one you kind of want to hold to. They've created a really decent strategy. There's some pretty sharp guys there, and then all these other ones kind of like, we're like them. It's like Ethereum's an altcoin. We're kind of like Bitcoin. Buy me.
Yeah.
Um, so
Like, I think there could be plenty of winners. Like, okay, if you bought Ethereum when it was, really small, you made
agreed.
money. Cool.
True.
So there's two winners. But I agree with you 100% that, Bitcoin's the winner. Ethereum, in my mind, I'm like, that's not a winner. Like, okay, you made a shit ton of money, but like, you don't go around being like Ethereum's the new thing. Like, that just isn't it. And so MicroStrategy, or I guess strategy now,
Yeah.
you're like, it's the winner. It's the number one thing. So why would you go with something else unless you're gonna try and sell it to get more MicroStrategy? I don't know. And so
I think it's got interesting parallels to like, it just reminds me of like Amazon. And what I mean by that is like, I remember back in 14 and like around 12 to 14, I was like, well, they don't make money. They don't make any money. Like people would just bash them. And now look, they are such a intricate part of everything. I mean, you think of like how like my wife, the amount of stuff she buys on Prime, you know what I mean? Like it's just never, there's no way that's going anywhere. It's in it, but it's kind of like the arguments they give MicroStrategy, where it's just like, well, how are they going to continue to do this with the preferreds and stuff? You get these like bearish arguments, and the stock's going to do that. That's fine. Again, they're going to make money on both ways. But I mean, if you would have sold Amazon then based off of that, it's kind of like selling MicroStrategy here. It's like, you're going to sell it, like you're going to sell a company that's got 600,000 Bitcoin, like it's like, sometimes you got to say that out loud. Like, dude, they're going to get 1 million. Somehow they're trying to get 1 million. And, that's just that, to be honest, the treasury company, I don't know how you feel, but it wasn't something I saw coming. I didn't think I'd see that. And what's funny with MicroStrategy? I didn't really pay much attention to them until around 23 and 24. I actually sat around and was like, maybe I should own some of this company that owns Bitcoin. Like, I just didn't even think about it. And then that just literally from like that moment, everybody started picking up the strategy. And it just, if you would have told me, if you would have asked me that something like that in 17, I would have never have thought companies. What do you think?
yeah, no, I agree. I do remember the first time I remember hearing Michael Saylor on a podcast, and he was announcing that he was buying X amount, like $400 million of Bitcoin, and I was like, who is this company, and why are they buying $400 million worth of Bitcoin? And so at the time, I ended up actually buying a little bit of MicroStrategy, and so I ran a lot of it when
Nice.
it went up, and but I sold it all. I own very little MicroStrategy still. I'm pretty much all in Bitcoin. I own some like MSTY, some MSTR, but that's like it. And
Gotcha.
so I'm watching the treasuries kind of closely because to go back a couple minutes, you were like, what could break this cycle? And I am concerned that treasury companies could get over leveraged and their debt becomes due, and that will cause them to sell. And then we have a cascade of treasury companies selling. Um, So I am worried about that. But other than like something kind of catastrophic happening, I that's why the cycle thing I'm like torn. Sorry, I'm kind of going back to that, but
No, it's fine. No, it's fine.
I'm just
I actually
torn.
like it because I'm going to be thinking about this, like, because I think the cycle thing's the best thing to debate. Who cares about, like, because here's the thing: if it does break down, I mean, you're a Bitcoiner like me. The first thing I'm thinking of is perfect. I'm gonna take an equity line on my house and buy, I'm gonna buy more Bitcoin. I'm not scared because I kind of want the cycles to be here because it's easier. I'm not saying you got to buy the bottom. I agree that's not the best strategy, but if you know the pain's coming, just be patient. You just have a target. Like, I don't know what we'd pull back to, even like what, 70K? You know what I mean? Like, that's
Yeah.
why I kind of want to blow up. Cause so like another random number is like every time we've pulled back, it was like 85, 80, and it was so like 75 to 70% would be like a old school bear market. It's like, dang, from here, man, that's like 35,000. Like, that doesn't even sound realistic. So what would we have to go to for it to be like 90K? That's kind of what I was thinking. Would we get some 175, maybe up to 275, some crazy run? But I mean, I just don't know the amount of money to have to come in. I just don't know if the interest is there. I mean, that's a lot of money to come in. It's going to have to be swallowed in by something else. But I am with you on the treasury companies. I think they're uh, that could trigger something. That one there. I don't know with anything else. I agree. Like, I mean, dude, we've been involved in these proxy wars. We've got some destabilization in the States as far as like, I mean, we're only 1 year into Trump right now, and so um, the whole Bitcoin president, I think that's disappointing in my opinion, as far as any real Bitcoiner, because he typically will come out and say crypto or do something else, and it's just not what personally it's not what a Bitcoiner wants to hear. Um, I
It's a step.
it's yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, I remember when he didn't like Bitcoin, and posted on X about back then when it was Twitter about how he didn't like Bitcoin. So I remember that Trump, and I was like, damn, like there was a lot not going for us, and so maybe we're spoiled. Maybe we just are spoiled at this point, and we just expect like this world reserve currency.
Yeah.
It, it could be that. But no, I do think there are some smaller treasuries where I've seen some that are like it's like it's added 4 Bitcoin or something just nonsensical, like that's like you're announcing that, but you know what, in the future that might be like a lot of money, but today it just looks kind of again, I'm from a time where that just seems funny, and I'm like, it's hard to grasp how big Bitcoin's become. So
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I do have one thing though, because we had a lot of whales selling so far. So I think that's really held us down. Um, and I think that's kind of what's kept us almost flat over the year, is maybe potentially those people have just been selling. Like OGs from like 11 have been selling. And it was funny when 80,000 Bitcoin got sold and we went down like 3%. I was like, that's it.
right.
That was so bullish to me. I was like, that is wild. And then maybe we just haven't hit that point where like the stock to flow like just hasn't hit that point. I'm not sure what could cause the parabolic run this time either, because Sailor's been buying, but people have been selling. So does it take a nation state like the United States to be like, we're buying 1 million Bitcoin? Is that what's going to do it? Who's another person? Because retail isn't really here, and I know my $500 isn't going to make us go. So I'm like, what's going to push us to that parabolic run? Which makes me think if we don't get that parabolic run, we're not going to have the devastating crash, because
Yeah.
people are. I mean, it's psychology. People, if we go up 80% from here, that's 180K, 109, well, whatever, about, close to 200. People are going to sell. People that have Bitcoin are like, holy shit, this could change my life. They're going to sell. So that's the psychology of it. And that's why we crash. But if we don't have that parabolic and we just kind of crab walk up and just go, I don't see us crashing.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about all these people are buying, and the price isn't really moving, and it makes me think of like dark pool trading. Like when it comes to like large institutions, like they don't just go to like the open market and put a a limit order in or whatever. They're buying in dark pools just to keep the waters calm. I think some level of that does happen when it comes to Bitcoin, but more or less like private sales. And that's why those 80K sales are interesting. Like, oh, that just randomly hit like Coinbase and just sold that. Just hit crypto.com and someone just dumped that amount. They were able to absorb that, and so, but at the same time, it's like, man, someone sold like, I can't remember the amount, but it was like $30 million. And I was like, hey, man, I ain't even mad. I'd sell it too, man. Like, you only live once, man. I mean, really, 30 million. Heck, he could have sold 20 million and kept 10 million in Bitcoin and been straight. But who's to say he didn't have more Bitcoin? It's like you can't blame the redistribution at that. Like, I mean, I can't blame him. Take your money. It's your. I get the whole like it's the pristine asset, but man, it's not everybody looks at it that way, and that's okay. That's why we have an exchange. That's why we have bearish and bullish perspectives. Some people are just going to sell. I think the redistribution is going to happen. And just what you just said, you're like, if we hit 200K, there's going to be some people that are going to sell. Yeah, just like the whales. They'll be the new whale, right? They'll be like, hey man, dang, because if you've rode this thing down a few times, it hurts, and so like, man, you get up to like 250 a coin, it's like I
It's
might
kind
have
of
to
nice.
sell. I joked with someone, I was like, man, let's say you got 600, I can't remember, it says like 800 grand or something in Bitcoin. And I was to tell you, I was explaining, so I was like, let's say you got 800K in Bitcoin. I go, hey, tell you what, I'm going to give you 800K, but you got to give me back, it was like 120K in taxes or something. You okay with that? And they're like, and I was like, what would you even say? You'd be like, all right, so I keep the rest? Yeah. I was like, if you bought Bitcoin before when it was like a grand, like your disparity of like what it's worth now is so much greater. You would totally you'd be like, I don't care if I pay taxes. Thanks. Cool. I just, you can't blame people for selling. And I actually weirdly think long term it's a good thing because it just gets spread out more.
I
Um,
agree.
the concentration's happening for the explosion up. What do you think about like I'm kind of indifferent on the paper Bitcoin conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going into that because I just was reading. I can't remember his name, but he's on X. He's like it's like Stacks Bitcoin or something is his name. He always posts stuff about it, and I kind of I get the sentiment like so much because I'm like it is so frustrating. But what do you think? Do you think there is?
The paper Bitcoin thing, I mean, I think it's a wash. I think there's it's not important. I don't think that's what's like happening. It is frustrating that you see people buying billions, hundreds of millions, people announcing that they're buying and we don't move. And I'm like, why is that? I don't know. I see charts from, the technical analysis guys and they're like, here's what's happening. And they're like, look how much sell pressure there is. It's like people are really selling. There's been a shit ton of Bitcoin selling over the past 6 months to a year. It's incredible. And I'm like, well, then thank God we're over 100K. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, just like you said, if I had 80,000 Bitcoin to my name, you bet your ass I'm selling like 30,000, 50,000 of those coins. Like I'm getting rich and I'm buying an island and fuck you guys, I'm
I'm
out.
done. I'm done.
Yeah.
Like it's game over. You're so rich at that point. It's like insane. You can't
Yeah.
really be mad at these guys for. It makes you wonder, like going back to the thing about 10K being kind of that sweet spot and like 100K being like this magical number. We might look back in the future and say like, wow, that was actually a pivotal number because it's where all the redistribution is actually happening, and we're just not really. You just might not be actually seeing it at that level, but that's what could be happening here. But I 100% the fact that we agree that we're still over 100K, we haven't like broken down below it. And we had that dip recently, that week dip after we hit. What was so funny about hitting like 125, I remember I was like laying in bed, I was like, let's go. And then I woke up and it was like just breaking down. I was like, dang, that's all we got. Like, you're just going to like break down after that? Like, come on. It was like so irritating because I thought we were really going to go to like 130s, maybe get into the 40s, break back down to 30. Man, we just broke down and it's just been ultra boring. And I don't know what we're waiting, I don't know what Bitcoin is waiting for to move. That's kind of the vibe. Because sometimes I'm like, the joke is Bitcoin doesn't care. It just does whatever it wants. If it wants to go to 150, it's going to do it. And I just don't know. The 0.25% cut recently is like, those rates cuts don't even like do anything to the market for like 6 months. So it's like, ooh, you just gave like a mercy cut. I on that topic, I think it's funny when they're like, "Oh, Trump and Powell are fighting." It's like, okay, well, like if Powell hates him so much, then just cut rates to zero and just ruin everything. If you know what I mean? If it's gonna make Trump look bad, then just do it. And it's like he comes out and he does a quarter. It's like, all right, it's. I don't think it's what we think. Personally, I think we're gonna just kind of trade like kind of sideways for the rest of September. Uh, and I think something might start cooking in October. That's kind of what it's starting to feel like. It's like, are we just going to go sideways here? But I
Well,
think the
Bitcoin bores you to death and then it rips your face off. And so right now we've been bored to death for like 8 months. So
it's a 85-15. I used to call like 85% of the time you're just like, oh my gosh. And like 15% like, this is the funnest thing I've ever done. And like those rips are fun because dude, the memes that hit, all the funny stuff people put on X, it's like so much fun. Everyone's having a good time. And it just feels like we just haven't had a lot of that. Like this cycle's just been like I don't even look at prices. I used to just be obsessed. Like I used to just watch. I don't even like. It's just kind of like, oh, it's down. What's it down? It's down like 500. It's not even down a lot. It's just the volatility's gone. It's one of those things. Like we'll see. I don't know what's gonna. There's got to be something that's gonna really make a big move for it. And I just we're an interesting point. We're beyond the map. It seems like as far as where we're charting at this point. It's hard to guess. Um,
yeah. But I mean, even back to what I was kind of saying, like the psychology of it, it's kind of weird because will retail ever come back? Because even if we reach to the point, say Bitcoin hits 400K, that's the price of a house, dude. Do you think people are going to be like, yeah, that's what I'm buying? Like, that's going to be tough and it's going to be exciting. And so I do think that we still have so much room to run. Like, I know we're over 100K and it's like, we might not get the parabolic. We might get something, but it might not be as big. Like I still firmly 100% believe we'll be at a million. Like when 5, 7 years, I don't know. I don't care. I know we'll still hit it. And so buying at 100K, whether you buy at 70K or 100K or 115K, are you really going to give a shit when
no,
it's $1 million? You're not going to give a shit.
no.
So
Well,
why are we trying to
retail's
time them?
broke.
Yeah,
Retail's broke. Let's be honest. I mean, dude, inflation's no joke. I mean, they can say whatever they want when they come out with their reports, but like, dude, you go to the store, you're getting smoked. If you got to buy a new car, you're getting smoked. So spare me the whole everything's getting better. Like, no, it's still pretty bad for the average person. I just saw a chart that's like there's more wealth with the top 1% than there are with the entire middle class. Like, okay, so that's not actually a good thing for us. And I think if that's what we consider retail, that's not good. We hit retail real retail movement probably ain't coming back until they're told, like until like the bank starts offering it, being like, hey, you can access Bitcoin through our net, through our bank or something like that. And dude, it's turned our society into this like the amount of gambling we see online, the crypto nonsense, the meme coin nonsense. There's a whole new pump fund thing out now where people are like streaming themselves. So I just heard some stuff about that from someone. I'm just like, what? I mean, whatever. I mean, you're gonna get smoked on that, but like I feel like retail sees that and then they'll lean into that more because they'll be like the rate of return is greater and they won't analyze the risk properly. Whereas like Bitcoin's become boring, dude. Retail's not going to go to boring. They sh- it has become more of a savings technology, but again, like we were over 100K last December, and we're just really haven't moved up that much to like get people to. Most people, I feel like once we broke that 70K, started reaching out. That 70 to 100K, that's when I started getting all the doubters started reaching back out to me. So it's like I remember hearing someone say, every cycle we bring in more smart people, and there's just less smart people that you're bringing in over time. And I feel like that window was like some smart buying, that 70 to 100K window. Um, but then again, something else I thought of, like, dang, dude, if somebody was 10 in 2017, I mean, they're 18 now. So this is like this whole new group, of people that are looking at Bitcoin. And what are their prospects? Do I buy Bitcoin at 100K? Do I start throwing money into that when their rent's like 2,400 a month? Car payments like 600. I mean, I don't even understand how people can even. I, I, I remember growing up making like 10, 12 bucks an hour and being able to like have a roommate and figure things out. Um, the for retail to be like, I'm also going to allocate to Bitcoin. Um, it's tough, especially if they just don't have like they didn't have a parent explaining like long term planning. I don't know. I don't know. It's unfortunate because Bitcoin is something that's people who today don't own that are middle class and they're kind of hurting. They're going to look ahead, like you said, whenever we hit a million, look back and be like, man, glad I was allocating something to that. I can use it now to like give, as like a legacy to give to my kids or like pay off this home or something. So something that'll help them in the future. But yeah, I don't know what brings retail's got smoked too many times to get back. I can't blame them. I can't blame them for being skeptical of reentry personally.
I know it's funny, but then like sports betting is at like all-time high.
Oh,
I'm like, oh,
so
okay.
agreed.
But I mean, if you throw $10 on a game and your hopes, you have like
Right.
a 12 leg parlay, you're going to cash out, $20,000. It's like,
Right.
let's go. And
Right.
that's what the hype is. And it's like, yeah,
Totally.
you throw $20 into Bitcoin. Okay. For that to turn into $20,000, it's going to be a long time. So
Right.
that's not going to happen. They're hoping they want take my money, turn it into 20K, and I get to watch a game. Like, okay, let's do it.
It's
But
end of empire vibes, like I gotta like speculate to the point of insanity to kind of have hope for the future, hope of like retirement, it's or even anything in the future at this point. It's like, what do you tell your kids? Yeah, I got two sons, and it's like AI is a pretty big disruptor. It's like, okay, like what will even be there for them to focus on? It's like, you can invest into Bitcoin, but with what? Like, or what should you do? And if I often told them years ago, you should probably get into mechanical engineering because someone's gonna have to fix the robots. And now I look back, I'm like, well, that was actually probably good advice. You told them back then because that does seem like we're leaning more towards that way. Um, but retail, when you start talking about retail, it's what's funny about this cycle is that when you talk about retail, it's kind of sad. You know what I mean? Because you kind of brought into what inflation has done, the division of what's kind of conversations you're seeing online. What like the algo recently has just been like extremely like depressing. You got the kids that got shot at mass. You got the girl who got stabbed in the subway. You got the Charlie Kirk. It's just like, man, it's like, and so when you say retail, it's like at least in COVID, right? Everybody got all this money. I'm like, oh, well, retail can take all that money and make more money. And it was like, okay, good. And then in 17, it was like pre-COVID, it was like a whole different planet. It was like a different world. It was like, oh, there's actually something. I mean, I think 17 was the easiest money ever because you really couldn't miss on alts. You had the forks just giving you free money, free coins. There were exchanges paying you 10% interest daily compounded. I mean, you almost couldn't miss in 17. Like, you know, I mean, you actually have to be somewhat like sharp at this point. You know what I mean? To like really make those. At that point, you could just throw a dart at a board, and like you said, you could have been an early adopter of Ethereum or even like Litecoin. You would have made so much money. Because I think at the time, I think XRP back then was like pennies, and it went to like $4 back then. Like even that you could have bought. Like, just buy this, but
yeah, you
yeah,
could buy anything.
yeah, I just think now with retail, it's just it's kind of sad. It's like, dang, man, there's so much more comes out of what I think of retail, um, worldly like impacts of like kind of current events, and I just don't see them being like, yeah, I got to take some extra money and put it into Bitcoin. I mean, we can always tell them that is like and I still kind of do tell people, but the I think it becomes exhausting. I don't know how you're the same year as me, and talking about Bitcoin with people, uh, most they just don't really listen. And then what's the worst part is they'll call you and tell you an altcoin they bought. And you're
I
like, dude, come
I know.
on, you
One of my
know,
one of my buddies, he was in my wedding. He was a groomsman, and I started telling him like, when the COVID checks were coming, I was like, I'm putting this all into Bitcoin, and he was laughing at me. And we fantasy football starts kicking up, and he's like, "Yo, Vince, how high is Avalanche gonna go? What in the flying fuck makes you think I own Avalanche, bro?" I was like, I've been telling you to buy this shit for how many years, and you come back with that? And so I do agree. The squeeze on the middle class, and I don't even know how people are surviving if you're not making 80 to 100K right now. I have no idea how you're not how you're surviving.
for
Like,
real.
because even me and my wife, I'm like going to the grocery store. I used to not look at prices. Like I would just buy what I wanted. And now I'm oh shit, that's expensive. I'm maybe I'll get like the Kroger brand this time. And
Right.
it's brutal, and it's really coming into the middle class, I think. And it's causing first of all a lot of civil unrest, and people don't know why. They're they don't know who to blame, so they turn on the news, and the news says, tells you who to hate. And so then they get all this rage, and they go rage online. And it's pretty simple. Like, the money's broken. That's your problem. It's not one politician. It's not Trump. It's not Biden. It's a combination of pretty much all of them. Uh, I have my favorites versus not favorites. I like
Yeah.
Trump more than Biden.
Same.
That's for sure. But they're still printing. The money's still going
It's
down.
it's basically been broken since the great financial crisis. They basically did an experiment with quantitative easing, and it didn't work, and it broke around 2019, 2020, and they used that as a way to, like, whatever they used, the $8 trillion print they did, which now looking back, I mean, even if you bought Bitcoin at that time, you still would have won, you still would have did good, but yeah, the store is terrible. Yeah, you go to the grocery store. What's even crazier is funny you say that because you can try to be smart buying stuff, right? And like look for low prices, but then it's not even real. Like, for example, like I needed to get syrup and I was like, oh, there's a, the Meyer, I'm in Midwest. So it's Meyer. It's like, oh, Meyer brand. Read the back. It's like 30 ingredients. And then I look at it's like $2.99. I'm like, well, dang, it's not even syrup. And then I look at real syrup. A pint of syrup's like $10. Like, oh, so if I want to eat real food, it's going to cost me like 10x to buy it. So on top of the fact of like you were saying, things are expensive. People aren't even like are malnourished. Like you said, they go online, they freak out, they look for someone to buy, and the money has been broken. I almost thought like since the LA crisis was like a strategy for the top 1%, which funny that statistic came out today about how much money they got was for them to get in front of everything and buy all the assets, not really Bitcoin, but like homes, all these properties, having access to private equity, hedge fund strategies, all that, and commercial real estate, which they somehow, I think the thing that when you get into Bitcoin and kind of like, and I was in banking, so like you learn how everything works and you're kind of like, it's all going to come crumbling down. I'm so impressed by how the show keeps going on. Like that's what impresses me more than anything.
It's
I don't know
wild.
about you. Yeah, I don't know about you, but like being able for so for example, like you can look on like the FDIC's website and like look at like no, ever since 2020, they don't have to even have a dollar. I mean, that's kind of common knowledge on X, like in our circles on X, things we say, like they don't have a reserve requirement. It used to be 10%. Dude, when they tried to like re-raise it, like politicians flipped out. So it's just, they don't even have to keep your money. It's like you see these posts like from like Australia where they're like, they won't let me take money out. Like people won't care about Bitcoin till they have to. Something like that happens here. Then you'll start caring. What I tell people who about Bitcoin and like credit cards, like with money or whatever, like the dollar, I'm like, your transaction's approved. Not you don't get a confirmation like with Bitcoin. They approve your transaction for you. It's like you're not doing it regardless of the money. So I just think things have been broken for a long time. I read a book. Nobody really talks about it. It was called The Everything Bubble. It was written by Graham Summers. It's actually kind of an easy read. He kind of is like, here's what happened. And that's like the beginning. And it's like, and then what's to come? And I read it in like 16. Like, this is even before I even got to Bitcoin. And he was just talking about how, like, the treasury bond bubble was the last bubble. He was calling that like way back then. I thought it was like, wow, I was like kind of blown away. And he was just talking about them like limiting your transactions, making cash like have an expiration, so you have to spend it, so they get it all back into the system so they can go digital. Just some really interesting takes where I'm like, wow, a lot of that stuff he was talking about actually is kind of like I'm starting to see where they just did he's like, they won't be able to survive. They're going to have to do a massive print into the future, and that's kind of what 2020 was. And now everything seems artificial, and I feel like a lot of people were just is it just going to break down so we can kind of rebuild? I feel like a lot of us feel that way. I don't know how you feel, but
Yeah, no. Have you read The Big Print
no.
by, by Lawrence Lepard? So, because you brought up, you don't know how the banking system, how is it still running? How is it still going? Like, they've printed so much money, and that's what Lawrence talks about in the book is the next big print is coming. And there's your next catalyst. I guess we just answered our own question. If that happens, the next big print, when they print, it's not going to be 8 trillion. It's going to
I mean,
be,
like 80,
it's going to be like,
something
yeah,
crazy.
it's going to be like the 20 trillion, the 30 trillion. Like, they're going to print, and everything is going to go up in price. And if you don't own an asset, you're fucked. Like, you're left behind. You will never be able to afford things again. And that will happen eventually, because I don't see another way forward. A government official is not going to stand up there and say, hey guys, we're going to suffer for the next 10 years if you vote for me because I'm going to fix the financial system.
Right.
But just bear with me, guys. You are going to hate your life, but we'll fix it. That's not going to happen. It will eventually break. And I was listening to someone else, and they were kind of explaining how they think it could break down, and we go back to a gold standard, and your dollars become worthless, and we kind of go back to a gold standard and reset with like a new money of some sort. And I was listening to that more because I didn't catch it all, but I'm like, that could be a possibility. I don't know.
It's possible that we could go back to a gold standard. I doubt. I mean, I don't know. I think they're going to make the show keep going on with like stable coins. I think they're going to try to spread the dollar internationally more, because there's actually worse currencies than the dollar, So they're going to be like, well, I can just download this app and get stable coins, and then I can actually use this to buy food. You know what I mean? So like, they're not those countries aren't like, I need to focus on like a 401k. They don't care about that. They're just trying to feed their family for the day, right? And if they can get access to what they'd consider the dollar, is kind of like Bitcoin to them, like, hey, this is actually an asset that I'm not going to just have to ask, like the Venezuelan stuff where they're like, yeah, the cost of coffee changed by the time I left, like when you're dealing with those types of problems in like foreign countries, if they have access to like the dollar through a stable coin, I think that makes the show go on longer. That keeps the dollar in power. I think I underestimated how powerful really the dollar was when I got into Bitcoin, because it just seems so easy for Bitcoin in the beginning to destroy it. It just makes sense. It's so honest. It's like I can just transfer my money whenever I move stuff. Like whenever I move Bitcoin, I'm like, dang, I could just move my Bitcoin. For example, if you were to try to like make a payment or buy something or move money let's say I get up early to work out, walk my dog, 5 a.m. You try to do something like that, you could get flagged because it's just out of your character. Like they'll just flag you, and then it's like this big pain in the ass. Like Bitcoin doesn't care. If you got the address, send it. You can just send it. And I think those are moments where it's like they actually control your money more than you think. I don't know what's going to take the big print. I don't know what they can convince the public to support a big print for. War, I highly doubt that. We're already a part of so many conflicts, like the Iran situation. Everybody already forgot about that. People forget about stuff so fast now, unless there's some sort of like event in the States where some city gets new. I mean, some crazy would have to be like where people are
Another
like,
nine
we're okay
11.
with, yeah. I mean, but like squared, where we're like, we're totally cool with you printing $80 trillion, even if it collapses us to make us feel safe again. Um, but the safe thing and what's going to happen, I feel like that's like a pendulum swing kind of. And I feel like our society shifted to one way, which was like the liberal democracy, where like everything, we're going to have social workers instead of police officers. And then like everything became chaotic, and now we're shifting back. And I warned all my friends, I'm like, hey, look, we'll shift back and it'll be like martial law. And I already have like boomers that are telling me like Trump should just send the National Guard to like every city. And I'm like, that's probably not a good idea, but what would make that happen to get a print is kind of my thing. Like what I almost think maybe that's what this all is. Like all this algorithm of like demoralization is designed for a breakdown here. Like the war will be here, so then they can print. Well, we're looking overseas, being like, is it Taiwan? Is China going to invade Taiwan? I really, to be honest, don't want any smoke of that. I don't want any trouble. I don't think we're serious. I'm not saying there are some guys in the military. There's some serious guys. Don't mean it like that, but like, I just don't know if we have like. I don't know if we want to get involved in that. I feel like we're kind of spread thin at this point, and I don't even want war. I don't know. Like you said, when it comes to like where I lean, I don't want any of the the Iraq, Afghanistan, 9/11. I lived through all that. That ended terribly. I don't want any of that. I think we have problems to fix at home, but I almost feel kind of like we're engineering some sort of like breakdown here for the reason to print from the book you're saying. I mean, what else could it be at this point? It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they're gonna usher in like UBI, universal basic income, on stable coins or anything like that, they're gonna have to print money to pay you. So if maybe that's it, hey, you guys can't afford anything, so if you vote for me, you will get $1,200 a month through this stable coin
Wow,
that you download this app, and we will pay you this amount of money. I don't know.
that's crazy. But I mean, that's almost I don't. It'd be so crazy to see that coming from like just the generation I came up in to see like they would just pay you. I'm smiling because it's almost believable. Like I could almost see them say like, "Oh my gosh, they might actually do that as a way to like." And it could be kind of like how we're saying the move on Bitcoin slow. That's kind of the way they do the big print, but like slowly distribute it. We're going to distribute it a slower way so it doesn't impact everybody.
Don't
Um,
you think everyone should be able to eat? What do you think?
right.
You should be able to
Everybody
eat,
deserves a
bro.
roof. We all
Yeah,
deserve a place to live. It's a
we should
human
get rid of
right.
homelessness.
Right.
Like,
It's a human right.
exactly. So why wouldn't we do this? Are you not humane? Like, what's wrong with you? Are you voting against this? How dare you?
Right.
We already
It's
see the headlines.
very COVID where you don't want to wear a mask. So you want other people to die. Like it's just kind of comments like that. And what you're saying is like a financial version of that, which could totally happen. That's crazy. They could distribute it that way too. I, uh, I'm just thinking more of an event. You know what I mean? Because I feel like we've had events like every time where it's something that's happening. Maybe they don't need the event. They just need people to just like you said. Hey, we're gonna because what you said is I'm gonna give you all this pain, right? That's how we're gonna solve the problem. But instead of that, it's like I'm gonna cure everything and I'm gonna give you money. You know what I mean? And if you're like, I don't know how I feel about this, like you don't feel okay removing homelessness and making sure everybody has a place to stay. Yeah, that could be a way they handle that. It's crazy and it's unfortunate because it's just not it's there's no way that can like be a solid society. We just know that's just gonna work for a period and that's gonna break down too, where Bitcoin's the end all solution. Like it's actually something that we could build for 100 years. And it's like you almost just don't have serious people in charge, you know?
Yeah, and I'm gonna transition here because okay, so what we were just talking about, like, yes, this is a very possibility that something like that could happen where they, distribute money. And then the headlines, you don't, same with 2020, wear your mask, you grandma killer, that type of thing. And we all remember what happened, right? How we got silenced pretty damn fast. If you said anything, you were kicked off social media or you got like one view on your video because it was
Yeah.
like suppressed,
Right.
right? And now it's wild to see what's happening with this whole free speech thing in Charlie Kirk, dude. I am like, I'm still shocked by it because now we have Jimmy Kimmel and this whole, oh my God, free speech. We're getting rid of Jimmy Kimmel. And I'm like, whoa, 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 you wait, this is backwards. Like, I, I don't know.
It's a sensitive topic right now. I mean, dude, what happened to Charlie Kirk was just, dude, so bad.
Devastating.
You know, and I got kids, man, and like I got friends that don't. They're like, well, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna log off. I'm like, well, I don't have that luxury because they're either gonna see it. I could take their phone. Someone's gonna show them. Someone's gonna tell them. And man, I saw a TikTok where the dude was like, you weren't supposed to see that. Like that dude, like that's so terrible. And like in front of his kids. And for the thing is, like you said, man, you could have been like kindergarten cop, like boys have penises, girls have vaginas, and you could have like you could have lost your job for that back during COVID. Like just saying so, or just in 2018, you could have just made. I don't think everyone needs the vaccine. They could have like took everything away from you. Now there's in those situations of what's like the Jimmy Kimmel thing. I kind of looked at what he said and it was like, it's not as bad as some of the stuff I saw, like where people were like laughing, like there's not freedom of consequences. Unfortunately, in the modern society we live in, if you're a salaried employee, whatever you do online can be used against you by your job. If you're on LinkedIn and you're a serious person, you probably shouldn't be doing stuff like that. And if you lose your job, hey man, it happens. It would happen to me if I got blackout drunk at the bar and punched some dude and said something messed up and I'm a serious person online and that got out and somebody like sent it to my boss, I'd lose. We don't need a crisis for you to lose your job that way. The Kimmel thing, from what I read, he kind of made a comment about like, why isn't Trump commenting on it? I oddly, I kind of like wondering too. Like, wasn't that your friend? Like, how come? I I, I want him to say something, and I have conspiracy tinfoil hat time conspiracy. Is this dude? Did this dude have is he is he going through some Biden stuff like cognitive like problems where he made some weird comments, Trump, where he said they were like he got asked about it. He's like, oh, it's a terrible thing, but if you look over there, those are the construction workers building my ballroom. I'm like, you just randomly change the subject like that, whatever. And I was just kind of like, he goes to this NFL game. He's kind of and he's overseas. I mean, that was his friend. I'm like, I'm just surprised. I don't. Where is he at? Like, okay, here's a great comparison. I told my brother this. I go, during 9/11, because I feel like the Kirk thing had a feeling of 9/11. Not saying somebody, the towers came down, but the feeling of not feeling safe. Like, dang, man, like he just got shot. He's just he has kids. He's a father. He's Christian like me. He got shot. It's like that moment of not feeling safe. Same thing with 9/11. I remember 9/11. We're like, what's George Bush going to do? Is he going to come out and tell us? And 9/11 oddly brought us together. This is like dividing us more. And so that's kind of like, that's where it's like, dude, where are we going to be able to even fix this civilly? Like, so, and and finally, the last thought is, what's the next thing to happen? Is there going to be a retaliation event where now that's the new bad guy? Because that's what I feel like Kimmel is. It's like, I'm the victim. They canceled me. Not the Charlie Kirk thing, the death. That was a week ago. Come on. That was a week ago. I'm the victim now. We're the topic now. We're on the front of CNBC. I just saw it. ABC CEO was like, I can't believe this happened. He's like quoting like, like the First Amendment. I'm like, dude, like
it happens both ways.
Exactly.
And it's such a, I said something to my uncle earlier today because he posted about it. I'm like never on Facebook. And every once in a while I make the mistake of logging onto Facebook. And I did this morning. And he had this whole post about Jimmy Kimmel. So I just said, quick question. How come it doesn't go both ways? How come when the left says, is stifling speech of the right, how come you're getting rid of hate speech? You're helping, you're silencing someone, but you're doing it because it's the right reason. But then when the right does it to the left, all of a sudden it's fascism. And it's like, wait a minute, guys, like, I think we're focusing on the wrong thing here. I think it's all fucked up. We shouldn't be silencing anyone unless, okay, yes, your employer has the right to fire you. That's their choice. Free words. Yep, you have free speech, but you also have the consequences. I completely agree. If you say something dumb and your employer's like, I disagree with that, you're fired. So watch what you say.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, we should not be cheering if you're on the right or the left that someone is getting silenced for their opinion. I don't even, Kimmel saying something dumb about MAGA, I'm like, yeah, he's done that his entire career. He built
exactly.
Who gives a shit? No one listens to him. Like, there's like 100,000 people that listen to him on a given night. I'm like, dude, I can post a good tweet and get that. Like, fuck off. Like, who cares about him? And now it's everywhere. I'm like, Charlie Kirk was fucking murdered, dude. Like, I don't.
Here's a good way to look at Kirk. Here's something I was thinking about earlier. I was like, if this would have been a dude that wrote the political section for the Wall Street Journal in like the 80s, and this happened, and he'd go to universities and this would happen, this would have been one time on the news at 6 p.m., maybe at 11, maybe on a 60 Minutes, and then you might have heard about it in the new rewritten school books into the 5 years into the future. Dude, we get to watch Charlie Kirk forever now. Like, this dude's got so many clips online.
I've never watched so much Charlie Kirk.
I mean, he's got good debates too. Like, I actually will forward it from a very balanced perspective where I'm like, to someone maybe other side left leaning and be like, hey, this is actually a good exchange. Or like where I've heard, I get a lot about like he's racist or something. It's like, okay, well, what's the topic? And then I'm like, well, this was the context of that. Like, this was the convo. If it's a bad take, then then debate him, right? And then like win the debate, and he's just talking, like he was talking, and they killed him. And that's the sad part. Like, dang, they just killed that. It goes back to like, man, you just killed the guy. Um, so the thing you said about the left and right, I always, it's pretty simple. They're just hypocritical. That's what I always say. I'm like, well, they're just the left's just hypocritical. They're like they just constantly do it. I'm not saying the right's perfect. They got some problems too, and I think it's best to, especially like with where Bitcoin's just like a perfect situation, like a perfect protocol where you just follow. It's just there's just rules it has, and it's like kind of like basing it on like that perspective of like, well, how does this work? The right has their problems too, but the left is just like it's kind of just they're actually being held accountable to what they do and what they say, and they don't like it. And it's like, hey, welcome to the party, man. Because that's what I've been telling a lot of people. Like, hey, man, we've had to deal with this for like at least the last decade. And all that stuff was pressed hard in corporate America. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
hey, man, like, if you had any opinion outside of, what the corporation thought, man, it was game over. Like, you had to just be okay with everything. And like, we're not even asking a lot. Like, hey, maybe don't post videos laughing that he was murdered. Like that. How about
The
you?
bar is pretty
The
low.
bar's pretty low, and the scare. I think the one thing that's scary is like a lot of these people are in like the medical and educational field, and
Yeah.
it's like that's weird. So like, this is who teaches our children and takes care of us if we're hurt. Like that's what you think about. Like if we don't agree with you on one political topic, like it's so weird. It's just unnecessary. Like I get along with everybody. I can get in a room with most people and just play along. Like I don't really care. Um, but man, it's hard to be like cool with someone that's like laughing at just some dude just getting shot in front of his kids. Like again, the first video I saw was the one from a distance because somebody was like, "Hey, did you hear this?" And I was like, "Oh, dang, for real?" And they couldn't find the video. I'm like, "Oh, it's on X." And he's like, "You always find this stuff fast." I'm like, "Dude, just get an X account. Like,
Yeah.
that's
It's
your news
everywhere.
source. It's everywhere." And then it was like, oh, then there was the up close, and that just was like, I mean, I had to like sit down after seeing that. It was so dramatic, such a traumatic thing to see. Like, oh my gosh. And that was just my concern was now I got to tell the kids, because they're gonna see it. It's like then my son, I like posted some. My son was like, "Hey, did you see that?" Like I screenshot the text, I actually put on X, and I was like, "Yeah," and I was like, it's not, he wasn't considered dead yet at that point. I was like, we should pray for him. And but dude, when you saw the hit, you're like, there's no way, like he's done. Like not to be like dark about it, but it was like, oh, yeah, that's like kill shot. Like he probably was dead when he hit the ground. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like so.
I saw an interview with his one of his bodyguards who was like, yeah, he was gone in the as soon as they got him into the car. He was like he was done. They were giving him CPR, and then they said that there was like a pulse for a couple seconds when he was in the hospital, and that was it. So he was like, no, he was already gone. Like once they got him in the car, and I was like, oh yeah, no, it's just like the divide, the hate, and to bring this back to Bitcoin is what happens if a government rolls out a UBI type thing and we say, hey, opt out, buy Bitcoin, but we're the silenced ones. And I think that that's kind of a big deal. What people should actually be paying attention to is the right is silencing the left, not nearly as much, I don't think, but it is happening. And the left has been silencing the right for, like you said, like a decade. And it's like it's such a distraction of like, do you guys realize that there's like something bigger going on here? Like they're telling you that you can't fucking talk, and if you do, you'll get shot. Now you'll get shot, or you, at the very minimum, you'll get fired. And I think that's pretty like consequential, and people should probably care about that pretty deeply, because if that's gone, what else can be taken from you? I mean, if your only
100%.
sovereignty thing is Bitcoin, and I don't know, it's like a dark path that I don't want to go down, and that's kind of like a doomsday thing, doomsday
Yeah,
scenario.
you don't want to
But
do the doomer meme, like, but no, you're right though. Like, I posted something similar like that. Like, what's the point of being, rich if like you don't have any freedom? or what's the point of being wealthy if you live in fear? And I think that's kind of like what Bitcoiners are waking up to, at least myself. When I say big, I always feel like you're kind of speaking for what you think, but I think when it comes to where we're going, it's like, well, what is Bitcoin going to like do if like you said, like because things can change from a different administration. And that's another concern I got when 28, like they can shut off all the off ramps. They can punish all of us Bitcoiners for voting for Trump if they want. And so that's always a concern. The good thing about Bitcoin is you can't stop me from sending it, the old school layer one way. I know it's not like the most attractive way to send it, with like lightning and stuff like that. But I can still send it. I do have, it makes me wonder like what's more important, than just the Bitcoin go up, like, well, what kind of world do you want to live in with this money, and the thing is, you always hear, why do Bitcoiners always want to get rich and then just get a farm and move away? It's like, we just don't want to feel like we're the need of like being like, we want that freedom where, nothing's like growing your own food. I grow like tomatoes and stuff like that. It's like, great. It's so cool. It's like, man, what a life hack. I can grow food. But I do think those are some questions to ask yourself and, I think it's something to ask, the Bitcoin community. It's just hard because we're in a bull market, and in reality, I think we can both agree that everybody always only cares about money and winning, and it's like, well, I feel like you really like get that stoic sense of yourself in the bear market, like what's really important, because it like hardens you like stone. You become like this statue, like you're just hardcore. And I think the bull market, it's hard to focus on like when you're just winning. It's hard, you're just like high fiving everybody. But you're right. You're right. And that can happen overnight. COVID did. Remember? It's like, oh, someone's sick. Oh, all of a sudden this person's sick. Now it's in your state. Now it's in your city. And now you're locking the doors at work and your kids don't go to school. And it was just like bang, 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 bang. And so I remember that. Like, I think if you want to remember anything, remember how fast they locked everything down. Dude, you needed a document in your car to drive. Like, people forget that, it was, and people just forget everything, all the stuff during COVID. And unfortunately, that was during Trump. Trump was the president during all that. Trump was the president during all that money getting printed. And, Biden just carried it on. It was totally okay. And here we are. So I do think those are important questions to ask. I feel like we're in a weird position now where Trump's kind of like, I know people are like, I try to play the middle. I feel like Trump's, are people looking at him for leadership? Like, did you get that vibe? Like, maybe 24 hours after the Kirk thing, but like by Friday, were you like, what's Trump think? It's like, we weren't
Oh, I
getting
went
that.
online. I
Yeah.
went
It's just like,
online to see what my peers were saying.
yeah. And it's like, where's our leadership? And I feel like there needs to be someone that emerges. Um, we don't have that leadership of this nation. And, people joke about Trump and Biden. People forget about Bush, dude. I mean, Bush was like so hilarious and bad. I mean, he was like the most hated person on the left forever. And I always laugh about how much they hate Trump, because I'm like, dude, you guys totally forgot how much you guys hated Bush. But you know what? When 9/11 happened, he came out to that podium and he was like, we aren't gonna let terrorists do this to us. And like, I was young. I was like, cool, man. So he seems serious. You know what I mean? Like, I had no clue, just such a young, wide-eyed kid, but like, okay, I think we're going to be all right. Like, he kind of came out and calmed the nation, dude. I mean, obviously that was such a big deal, much bigger than Kirk, but like, there's been some tragedies recently and like, nobody's talking to us. Nobody's coming out. We're talking about trade deals going to it's just like, dude, like, I don't
That's
know.
true. I agree.
I just think haven't had a real leader emerge that like that would be like where we would start to feel like actually like proud, of our nation, like where it's like, hey man, I mean, think about it, it's like taboo to be like, oh man, like American in certain communities, but it's like online, like that vibe you got for a long time. Like, I feel like we need that. We need someone that would come out and be like, I want to calm the nation. I want to make everybody know that we're all in this together. We're not hearing that.
That's very true. I didn't even think about that. That's so true. I did not look when that happened. I didn't even give a shit what Trump was going to come out and say. I honestly didn't. I was like, I was more concerned of like, what does my wife think? Because she's crying because she's watching pictures of Erica. And I'm like, that went on for like a week for her. And I was like, can you please turn off your phone? Because every night you're like crying watching these videos. But then you're right. I did not look to Trump for like words of wisdom or hope or anything. But yeah, that's weird. All right. But dude, so we have been going for a while and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to end on a positive note. What are you looking forward to the most? Bitcoin wise, life wise, what are you pumped about?
Yeah, I actually think the resurgence of I mean, to be completely honest, I think I actually called this, and I mean, I hate to be like I called this, but like, I remember I'm Catholic and I got baptized into the Catholic Church. My kids are Catholic, my wife's Catholic. I got baptized in 21, and I remember they shut the fountain down because of COVID and they turned it on for the first time there. And I remember telling my brother and being like, hey, watch, there'll be lines around churches, dude, eventually. Because I thought inflation, I thought the collapse of the financial system would break people down and they'd go back to where everybody used to go, which was the church. But now we're seeing it more from like a violent perspective of like, people just being like, okay, I'm just disgusted with what like we're seeing online. Like, I, I I don't think this is the way anymore, and people are leaning more towards their faith now, which I do think is a great thing. I do think there's going to be a resurgence of a more of a Christian, where it's not like think of here's something that you'll notice. Like when I was young, and you'd hang out with new kids, you just hang out with them. Hey, what's your name, Billy? Okay, cool, Billy. Now I hear kids hang out. They ask, "Are you Christian?" I hear it all the time. Like they'll ask what they are. They didn't do
Really?
that when I was a kid. Oh yeah, they're like, "Are you Christian?" They'll actually ask them. Where I'm like, "Dang!" And I just think I always joke this new gen is going to be very traditional, and so they're going to be very. I want to go to church, like all the stuff we did. Like I mean, growing up when I was young, like partying and stuff. Dude, that's all like, no, I ain't doing that. They're not into any of that. They're into like establishing relationships. So if you're asking me like, what am I like optimistic about? I just think the resurgence of tradition, a resurgence of families. I think a lot of what us earlier, when I say earlier, it's like 17, you're kind of an OG, I guess, at this point. Us Bitcoiners, we're probably not gonna observe the shade from the seed of the tree we planted. It's going to end up going to our kids, and that's going to allow them because the real wealth is in family. So, like, you want to talk about wealth. How about if your son has 5 kids? If you got 5 grandkids per kid, I mean, that's where the real wealth is. One of them are going to take care of you, hopefully don't go into a home. And with Bitcoin, you're going to be able to help them and be like, hey, this can be used for you to buy your first home. And is that a hodl forever thing? That is the forever thing, is like the lineage of the family. It helps that. So I do think there's some positive things. And I know we went off on kind of a negative topic of, like what's going on, the screens of like what's going on with like politics and stuff. But we do have hope in Jesus Christ. We have hope that, with Bitcoin continuing, it's not dead. It's not dying. It just keeps surviving. It's kind of like the movie, the Day the Earth Stood Still, where they're like shooting nukes at that like swarm and it just keeps getting bigger. It's like no matter think of how much the Bitcoin network's attacked on a daily basis. Nothing ever. It's so resilient. So no, there is things to be optimistic about. And honestly, it's almost like if it breaks down, that's, we can be reborn. We can rebuild the nation. It's almost like let it happen at this point. Like we want to keep this show going. It's nonsensical at this point. So no, I that's what I'm hopeful for.
That's
I
awesome.
yeah,
I agree, man. I didn't know that about kids though, meeting each other, being like, "Are you Christian or not?" That's so cool. Um, I did. I have seen like the resurgence of like people like, "Hey, man, we're taking my family to church," and they're like, "I haven't been to church in X amount of years, 10 years," and they're like, "My family needs to start going to church now." I did see that come out of the Charlie Kirk thing, and I was like, "Hey, that's pretty cool. That's a good legacy that Charlie Kirk just got like millions of people to go to church for the first time." Uh,
totally,
and that so
totally.
that
What a legacy! What a
yeah,
legacy!
yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, I think that was so cool. But I agree. I do think Bitcoin will help with with the positivity moving forward if people listen, if people start to realize that the money's broken and they do start investing in it. Like we said at the very beginning of this, you're not going to turn $20 into 20,000 overnight, but you have to build something. And if you're going to build something for your kids, why not let it be Bitcoin? Because I don't see another option. I don't see another solution.
Yeah,
But
I think Bitcoin's if you do dollar cost average into it, you know, you'll be okay. It's just like a 401k, man. It's just like slow drip into it. You'll be all right at this point. It's going to preserve your wealth. I think the best thing, like you said, the 20 is not going to be 20 grand. I think we kind of are past those days as far as like, I'm glad I got to kind of party in that time. Like the big run up was just so, I'll never forget the week it doubled when I was refreshing on Coinbase and it was just going up 1,000 every refresh. Like, what is this? What are we in? What is this going like to 1 million today? But I do think what I would tell like a serious Bitcoiner is obviously cold storage, you know, focus on that, learn about nodes, learn about mining. But in all reality, don't even think about really you keeping the Bitcoin. Think about the Bitcoin for your kids, you know, because they're gonna need it. You know what I mean? They're gonna need something like that. You're probably gonna be all right. Like where we're at, like even with AI, you yourself, you're probably going to be all right if, you know, if you work yourself out, even if things do go bad and you have some, you're still going to be okay. But if you're able to kind of clutch that for like 25 years, dude, dude, who knows where Bitcoin's going to be by then? And if you might think, I'm going to give all my kids 10 million Satoshi, dude, in like 25 years, you're going to be like, all right, here's 150,000 Satoshi, you know, like, and that's going to be like, thanks, man. This is where I'm buy a vacation home with this. Who knows what that'll do? But today you think that's what they need. It might not even be that much. Right. So,
dude, that's awesome. That was like a
yeah.
mic drop. I love that. Thank you so much, dude.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the call. I love it.